Can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Hang on one second.
How about now?
Okay, yep, gotcha.
Right on. Sorry, I hit mute on my mic by accident.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna dive right in and get rolling here.
Cool.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, great, man. Did
Okay.
what? Yeah, did you? I mean, do you want to? There's so much we could talk about. Did you have some things you wanted to focus on, or?
Well, I'm gonna have you just kind of introduce yourself, and then if you want to just kind of start going over, you should be able to screen share. I think if you think at
I'll
the
go try to do
bottom.
it. Entire screen. Cool. Can you see it?
Yep, got it.
Yeah. Cool. I'll stop sharing for now, but I can just start sharing when we want to start going over stuff.
Yeah, that works.
Cool.
If you want to go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself
Sure.
and kind of your background in relation, I guess, to home inspection and how you got Scribeware going.
Yeah, that sounds great. Should I start now?
Yep. Go
Cool.
ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Dylan Chalk. I'm a home inspector in the greater Seattle area. I've been doing home inspections since about 2003. I think I've done around 7,000 inspections. I kind of lost track after a certain point. I'm a licensed structural pest inspector, as well as a licensed home inspector, the author of a book called The Confident House Hunter. And that was kind of a book that I wrote to address the mythology that home inspectors are deal killers,
Yes.
and I wanted, a lot of real estate agents, they really have no training. They have no background of like how houses work, and they get freaked out if you find some problems. And so I wrote a book to kind of explain that, like, look, all buildings have problems. A good agent should be able to predict the problems and get out in front of the home inspection for us. One of the examples I always give is if I show up for my inspection and it's a 1920s house and the client is like, oh man, I really hope you don't find any lead and asbestos here, right? Then to me, that's like failure,
Yeah.
in every level, right? The agent didn't prep them for what we do, and of course didn't prep them for the fact that all old buildings are going to have lead and asbestos. So anyway, I digress. I wrote a book called The Confident House Hunter, and then years ago started a report writing software called Scribeware, and I originally built it just for myself, but in the last probably 5 or 6 years, I had a lot of people asking for it locally, and that sort of created a conundrum of what to do. So ended up kind of rebuilding it and building something that could be sold.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So you literally built it just for yourself, and that's it.
Well, in the very, keep in mind when you started in 2003, you're going back to like paper reports and the very first generation of digital cameras. So one of
Yep.
my first mentors I rode around with, used to staple Polaroid pictures to things. I mean,
Yeah.
for anyone that's starting today, you really can't conceive how primitive report writing was, and really how woefully inadequate. And the first softwares, from my perspective, were really bad. And so I think a lot of us sort of like built things out of Word and macros and Excel spreadsheets. I mean, there's sort of a generation of inspectors at a certain time where that's not that uncommon. And I ended up meeting my partner who built Scribeware. His wife is a real estate agent in Seattle, and I was doing an inspection, and he had watched this crazy thing that I had had built for me that was macros and Word. And he was watching me use it, and he was super curious. And he looked at me and he's like, I could make that so much better. And I laughed and was like, of course you could. It's terrible. But it worked, I mean, it actually got me a decent looking report, but I felt like it was like a box of springs that I had like crammed into a box and shut the lid, and I was scared to, open the lid or they'd all come flying out. So that was very first generations of what is now Scribeware were, Word based and stuff, but that's all many, many generations ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I went through AHIT in 2016, and for our I guess the classroom inspection, like because there's a classroom classroom portion
Hmm.
where we, like for 5 days, we went out to a different house each day to inspect. They gave us like a carbon copy
Yeah,
binder, and that's
that's
how we
right.
did our reports.
Yeah.
And they had what they called like cutting edge report writing system, which was inspected,
Yep.
and like that was terrible. Like because I came from like a web development, web design background into home inspection,
Oh,
so
cool.
I didn't realize that like there wasn't a good program at that point in time, and that
Hmm.
was just what 9 years ago.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
and then Spectora hit the market, and that kind of everybody just kind of started stepping up after that. I feel like and going into inspection report software a little deeper, like making it look nicer, getting out of like the basics that
Yeah,
what
I
it.
mean, I think in the world of even today, I mean, when I look at the market for software, there's what I call the old guard, right? There's 3D and HIP and people that have really been around for a long time now and have an incredible depth of features and stuff. And then there's the new guard, which are web-based apps, right? They're all based off Spectora-like platform, you know. And we're actually a bit different. My partner that built Scribeware was I think fourth or fifth person hired for Microsoft Xbox Live. So he has pretty like deep understanding of building a stable platform that talks to the cloud and can support lots of people using it. you know,
Gotcha.
right? And so our system's actually a database, which is so it's not a web-based app. It all talks to the cloud, so it has a lot of the beneficial features of a web app. But the database gives us quite a bit more horsepower under the hood to like do customizations and do things that I don't think really anybody else is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I think Casey mentioned something. Casey Bartley mentioned something about the guy that kind of was working on it.
Yes, that
Was
mentioned Steve. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
yes.
actually funny. I've got my Xbox on right
Nice.
now.
That's
So
awesome. It's so funny.
yeah,
I've never even been on an Xbox, and I mention
uh,
that to people, and they're like, "Wow, that's amazing!" But I don't even
yeah,
know what they do, so I'm kind of old school. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty
My
impressive.
video games were like Atari, you know, if that kind of makes me
Okay.
seem old, you know.
Yeah.
But
So the thing that interested me most about Scribeware, I think, with KC showing me was the ability to have more than just three categories of defects,
yeah,
essentially. So, like the standard across all platforms seems to be just like minor, intermediate, major, or like safety concern, maintenance item, recommended improvements. And there's no ability to add any more. And that was something that kind of caught my eye. And then also the ability to group defects into one comment. So, because I run into this a lot, and I gave the example when I was talking to KC, is like I'll have a deck that has like 10 issues with it, and then it's 10 separate defects in the report. And he was telling me that there's a way that you can group those into one comment, essentially, so it's
yeah,
not bloating your
yeah.
report.
Yeah, we're all about that. Totally. Can you see my screen okay? I'll kind of
Yep.
unpack some of these things for you.
Yeah.
What you're looking at, I should zoom out big picture, just what, this is a finished report. Everything is natively HTML in Scribeware, but you can print to a PDF. You can print just a summary. We have a request list builder so the agents can kind of build their own summary page. The modifiers are what we call, what you're talking about of, major concern, repair, improvement, all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. So we support unlimited modifiers. You can build as many as you want. You can give them different colors. You can give them different names. You can give them different icons. If you don't like the icons, you can not have an icon. uh, these to me are incredibly powerful. We obviously as inspectors are all sort of dancing around the whole don't want to freak people out thing. And I would argue without a lot of modifiers, it becomes very difficult to do a detailed inspection report and not freak people out. I
Yep.
mean, there's not enough places to put all of that information. And, I love my improvement or upgrade items. If we click on these, a lot of these are just newer code stuff, modern AFCI protection, deck ledger bolt, surge protection, GFI protection for laundry, all of that kind of stuff to me is, it's nice to let people know about modern standards, but I also think, it's an improvement or an upgrade over the way things were when it was built, so
Yeah.
really handles all
Insulation
that.
would be a good thing to have in there too. Like,
I actually,
if I
for that, I use energy efficiency.
oh, okay, you got a separate
You don't
tab.
have to, but like,
All right.
sometimes I'll, there's usually not much here, but like attic insulation and where I am, heat pumps are, we don't have natural gas on where I live. So lots of heat pumps and stuff. So, I might have 2 or 3 little energy efficiency items, but you could totally roll those under an improvement. I agree. Attic insulation would be a great one. And, like if I'm doing a 1920s house, I could tell you the stairs aren't to code before I show up, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, if it's not one thing, it's another. So, but anyway, I love my improvement items. Years ago, before I had all these tools, I only had repairs and never distinguished maintenance from repairs, and I think that's a very important distinction. So for me, maintenance would be like, painting and caulking and cleaning gutters and all that kind of stuff, clogged aerators, using grout sealer and stuff to seal up the tile grout would be maintenance items versus, repair items would be like things that are actually closer to, a defect, a recalled heater or some door repairs or something. I'll show you here this major concern because this starts getting closer to what you were asking about where you consolidate stuff. So a couple of years ago, I was meeting with somebody and they were like, well, where's your comment under roofing for, a damaged plumbing vent flashing? And I don't really think of roofs like that. I kind of think of roofs as a system, and all of the little individual things to me are basically these bullet points, so if you want, I could kind of walk you through how I built this, because there's a couple different ways to build comments like this. Let's go to, let's see, I deconstructed. I won't show you the roof because I'm in it. Can you see my back end here? Yeah, it looks like you can. I just
Yeah.
changed screens. So a good example, like I'm going to my interior. This is a report I did yesterday, but I kind of deconstructed part of it here. So I can show you guys. Let me make sure I'm in the right one because I pulled some stuff out of a finished report so I could kind of show you putting it back together, and I'll show you a number of different techniques that you can use. Let's see. Yeah, this one will do. Maybe it was the other one. Hang on. I can actually tell with I'll actually show you one thing on the homepage that's kind of cool is all these little red things that you see would be required fields. So these would be fields that I have set that I am, for me, are part of like, I've got to do this as part of my home inspection and I haven't filled them out. So you can see right now I have 9 items to review. So if I click on that, I can tab through the report. And that brought me to this roofing section here. And you can see these red things are just descriptive fields, but I haven't filled them in yet.
Okay.
And so
I guess those change colors when you fill them out.
yeah, so watch, I'll show you filling out a roof. So I walked this roof and I looked at it from the top of a ladder. And so it was like a gable roof. And actually, I think it was a hip roof. Yeah, it looks like there were some gabled sections too. And so I use this like flashings as kind of valley and penetrations. As soon as I check present and visually standard, I get a descriptive comment. Now I've built this into my template because how I want to do it, but I'm basically saying that like, hey, I'm looking at flashings and these are really important parts of a roof, and I'm sort of describing what I'm doing there as part of my workflow, part of my inspection. And so you can see how like I don't have to go somewhere and find that comment. The fact that this is blue tells me that comment is going to show up automatically. Roof covering materials. This was an architectural grade shingle. It was probably 2 to 5 years old, and it was not an overlay roof. But if it were an overlay roof, I would already have my different comments available to me to say like, hey, I don't recommend overlays, So that brought up several different comments that I could choose from if I wanted to have those. And that's, to me, a great part of Scribeware, is the way we can link descriptive fields to things. You can see here is a comment about, I actually have a snippet from the code in the 2015 IRC about overlays, and I just like built that right into my template. Again, you don't have to do this, but this is kind of how my template works. So I'll delete some of that, and we'll say that it's not an overlay. And then this is how I think of roofs. So I put them into a handful of categories. I only use a handful of roofing comments. So for composition roofs, which is most of the roofs that I see, I have composition new looks professional, composition new repairs needed, composition older tune-up repairs needed, composition localized failure repair replace, composition failing replace. Right? So you think about it, like it'd be hard pressed to find a comp roof that wouldn't fit into one of those categories, right? You kind of with me there?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like most roofs are going to fit into one. So this was actually new and looked professional. So I'll kind of hit that. And it gives me two different comments. I do tons of pre-listing inspections. So I have a recommended disclosure item, or if I was working for a buyer, I would have a due diligence item. So I can kind of delete one. I was actually working for a buyer yesterday. So due diligence. Roofing materials, a dimensional architectural grade. Let's get a bunch of comments here, or a bunch of pictures, excuse me, and we'll drag them in, and I'll kind of show you how I build a comment. Cool. So these are a bunch of roof pictures. We support a separate library in Scribeware that's just photo captions. So if I click on a picture, I could start to caption it, and I could just type in the word drip.
That's cool.
Drip edge flashings installed at roof terminations. This is good. These have been required since 2012. And you can actually tab to the next one. So on the mobile app, this is amazing. You could take a group of like 10 pictures and use voice to text to caption them and just swipe to the next one. It's very fast. So this one I captioned with voice to text as I went. So you can see it had a caption with the picture. So, and we have pretty powerful photo editing on desktop and stuff with arrows and ellipses and that kind of stuff. We'll type in the word buck, right? And I often no buckling, shingles noted, shingles laying flat on the roof. So this is all part of my own psychosis here, but I live in a rainforest, and my theory is that every roof is either leaking or going to leak. And so I'm going to write a narrative comment about every roof that I see, and I'll describe, if I think it's fine, I will describe why I think it's fine. And it actually doesn't take me that long, Here we'll type in metal. And
do you have a lot of open metal valleys like that?
Yeah, that's pretty common here, and I will often use this comment because one of the things I check is if the shingles are actually sealed well. Mm-hmm. So to me, like I will take a picture, like I want to explain to people what I'm doing when I'm inspecting a roof and what I'm looking for. If I can't find anything wrong, it's like, well, I don't see any buckling shingles. The rows look nice and straight. The shingles are well sealed to the valleys. There's a nice quality ridge vent. Like these would be things that I personally am looking for. And again, this is a technique, you might hate it, but this is what I do to kind of like show that I'm looking at stuff. If this is actually an interesting conversation, we should just talk about report writing in general, but I would say about 80% of my business is pre-listing inspections.
Really?
And we've had a tight market here, meaning very little inventory for 15 years,
Yeah.
And so agents where I am started realizing that it would be better to just get all the information out on the table when they list a property. So the agents here are like general contractors. They like things are painted. They like service everything. They get a really good inspection and they put all this information and they're like, all right, we're taking offers on Thursday. You don't have to go get any information. We got it, And the interesting thing is I live on an island. So the idea that you could do like a light pre-listing inspection and get away with it, it doesn't work. Like it would catch up to me. You know what I mean? So, so I have to kind of do my normal job. And I tried to build into my reports proof that I'm looking hard. Right. And because whoever met me, whoever's reading this report and wants information from it has never met me. they don't know what I do, right? And if I just had a checkbox that said satisfactory, that wouldn't really cut it, would it? I mean, you wouldn't learn anything. um, so here I'm nice straight rows, right? No buckling noted. So doesn't that look good?
Yep.
Like that's a good picture, right? To tell you that, like, because I don't, just because a new roof, there's a new roof doesn't mean a damn thing to me. I've seen new roofs that have to be replaced; they're so poorly installed, right? So I'm going to prove it, if I can, that, like, yeah, this seems like it was well done. So cool, and you can resequence the pictures, right? I can just drag pictures around if I want to, and so cool. I've got these captioned pictures, and I call this a parent comment. They're like, hey, this is a new roof. It's a dimensional shingle. These last 18 to 23 years generally. It looks neat and professional. Many companies offer a warranty, so I'd find out about a warranty. And then you'll notice I end the comment, examples of observations noted during inspection include, and I put my cursor here and I can hit this button with the mountains on it and make a bulleted list of my photo captions within my parent comment.
That's nice.
So what this actually gets me, Zach, is a workflow where for all of the systems where there's multiple defects with the same system, I take pictures and I caption them. That's it.
Yeah, because like this would save a lot of time in because the way that my software is set up now is, which I'm sure you've probably looked at it before, Spectora, but they've got a locations tab, I guess, or whatever, and then you basically you can write your own comment, or you can just have these pre-filled like left, right, like roof, garage, like type little
Yeah.
words, and then you got to put a comment on the picture as well if you have multiple pictures. So like an example for me would be I go through with a thermal camera, and then if there's areas where it looks like there's like an air leak or missing insulation, I take pictures. And so I have to put the location on the comment, the defect comment itself. And then on each image, I got to put the location so they know what the image they're looking at is.
Interesting.
This
Yeah.
would save a ton of time because you're just writing on the image and then you click a button and it pulls it into the comment.
Correct. And I've authored these parent comments that are designed to hold my photo captions, really, you know?
Yeah.
And the parent comments, I call this the art of being simultaneously vague and specific. You
Yeah.
know, but to me, that's great report writing. The vague part is like, hey, this is a new roof, you know, find out who installed this and get any warranty information. But, you know, here's specific reasons of why I don't think this roof will be a problem. And I'm listing that of all these like nice things. Now, I know most people don't do that, but I hope you take my point. If you're doing a pre-listing, this would be a technique when it's new to kind of ensure somebody like, wow, look at all the stuff he's looking at. You know, I mean, I'm not just like satisfactory, and then you have no clue whether it was a
Right.
well installed roof or not.
I mean, so my business is kind of similar to yours, except mine is like new home warranty inspections.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
probably makes about 90% of my business. And so I'm usually either inspecting it right before they close or inspecting it right before their warranty, like on new construction.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
doing it the warranty way, that would be, I like the way that you have that because you could kind of tell them, like, hey, it's the shingles were straight, the flashing was installed right, like uh, valleys were done properly, that sort of thing, and let them know, like, instead of just saying satisfactory, which is basically what I do right now.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you just say satisfactory, like it doesn't mean you're not really giving them any information, right? You know, I mean, and it's the old way of doing it. You would be amazed, Zach. Like the fact that I've done this a while, I would argue that 70 to 80% of our report writing techniques, when I read other people's inspections, date from pre-computers.
well, and that's where mine is coming from. It's coming from AHIT's literal carbon copy
That's
paper
right.
thing. They
That's
have the
right.
check satisfactory, marginal, or I forget what the other one was,
I
but
just did a meeting this morning with a company, and they're nicest people, great inspectors, and they're like, we want to do it the way we've been doing it for 20 years. I'm like, well, you can build that all in the Scribeware. It's no problem. But it's you're clinging to old ways of doing it that date from when
Right.
we didn't have a better way to do it.
Well, it makes sense to do it the way you're doing it because look at how far we've come as inspectors in terms of how detailed we're going into on defects. We should go into the same detail on things that look good so that they understand, like, instead of just roof satisfactory, they understand, like, hey, the shingles were installed professionally, they're straight, there's no buckling, blah, blah, blah. So it would
And
make sense if you're going to go into that detail on the defects that you should do the same for stuff that's good as well.
yeah, and to be clear, I don't do it for like sheetrock and stuff. For me, it's the high
Right.
liability things, right? It's like, where there's water, where like, to me, roofs are just like one of the most common home inspector claims, right? And I'm just not going to buy a roof for anybody. I'm not going to do it. And I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm looking for, and I'm going to show that. And I have the same approach. Like if I do a hard coat stucco building out here, those are a high risk envelope. That can be a great siding system, but if it fails, it can be spectacular,
Yep.
and like 6 figures, So if I'd see stucco and I can't find anything wrong with it, I'll have 20 pictures showing how I tried to find something wrong with it and couldn't, I'm
Yeah.
going to really manage that. Same with like, a heat pump. Every heat pump, I will have a video of the compressor running, I'm not buying a heat pump. Like I will have thermal images of hot or cold stuff coming out the ducts, and I'll have a video, and that's self-preservation as much as anything. But it also, I think, it shows the client what we're doing, and I really think that helps earn their trust. I would argue that everything I do in my report is designed to try to not only earn the first time, but earn and maintain my client's trust.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you kind of go about it the same way. I think Casey Bartley does it the same way because I've seen some of his sample reports where he takes pictures of faucets running, takes pictures under the sink of like, hey, look, there's no water, nothing's leaking, that sort of
that's
thing.
right.
I used to kind of I used to take photos of the roof and then, I'd put my comment like, there are no issues. But I was trying to get away from like bloating my report too much.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's kind of a battle that we all face too, is how much information is too much information. And,
Well,
you know,
it's one of the things that I love in Scribeware with the modifiers. So if we go back to these modifiers, you can actually choose which ones go to the summary and which ones don't. So you
yeah,
could have you can have a fairly consolidated summary page that might be like 5 pages or 4 pages or something. And I've tried to design my report where it unfolds, and my goal would be that the busy executive that has 5 minutes to look at the report can get
right.
what they need in 5 minutes. But I never want to lose my favorite client, which is the retired engineer, right?
Yeah,
Those are the guys that are going to give your name out to like their brother, their sister, and their cousin, and their coworker, and everybody, right? Like, though, and so, you know, the idea that we should have this thin report to satisfy the guy that has 5 minutes is like, I get it, but I want to satisfy everybody. Like, and to me, if you can have the report unfold as you're reading it, then it's as deep as you want it to be. You can click
yeah,
around and get what you need out of it. So the modifiers help. Let me just show you a couple other things. We'll do, if you have a second, we'll do a few other things. So a common one, again, multiple defects with the same system. How about lost seals, right? So,
yep,
by the way, when you're looking at this, this stuff is designed to print in the report up here. Everything you see down here are inspector only notes. So none of this will ever print in the report. So it just shortcuts to your comments, right? So I could hit lost seals and there's my lost seal comment.
that
And
was the biggest, my biggest complaint with that inspect it, which I don't even think they're around anymore. But you would have a checkbox area like this, and you would check the thing that you wanted, but it would literally show all the options in the report.
oh, interesting. Huh.
And
Yeah, yeah. So then you'd have to muddle through those. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
you get to see which one has the checkbox next to it.
So this is a good example of like what I'll do on site. All I did was took pictures and I captioned the windows with lost seals. And then I would usually do this on mobile on site, frankly, but right now I'll just go ahead and we'll do it on desktop. I'll drag them in. I put my cursor there, I hit the button, and there's my list. So it's really fast. We've also built a workflow on mobile where, let's say I had done this already, and then I find another one. I can take a picture, caption it, and I can hit add to existing observation, and I can go. It'll bring up the recent observations that I've done, and I can keep adding more pictures to it. You know.
Nice.
So I kind of call this concept like a photo bucket, but you create these comments that are photo buckets, and I can put all my lost seal comments. Sometimes if I'm in a really crappy house with windows where there's tons of window stuff, I have a parent comment, window repairs needed. And I can dump everything in here. I mean, I could put it like sash springs, containment cables, or the window balancers. The locks are broken, the frame is cracked, the energy coating is bad, there's lost seals, the desiccant strip is corroded, whatever. I can dump them all in there, and I could call it a repair. I could call it a major concern, and then I'll just hit that one button. I'll show you another one that one of my favorites for interiors is I only use one door comment now for the interior. Door repairs are needed. And this case there were just two, but I'll drag them in. I come here, hit the button, and there it is,
Yeah, because what else special about a door is
That's right. And I've had a library, and it's like you can't make a good door comment library because it's like, the bottom hinge on the third closet door on the west side of it's like you can't have that pre-built. Whereas if you use voice to text, it's so easy to just speak in, the hinge is loose in the main bathroom door, whatever. Like you just make a list and just speak it in.
I need to start doing that. I still type on my phone. I don't.
So
I
yeah,
never got to
a
voice to
couple
text.
tricks for that. This would be good for everybody, but voice to text. I would recommend Google's Gboard, which is like an aftermarket keyboard rather than the one built in to the phone.
Yeah.
Or I know some guys are having luck with the AI keyboards, and that really improves voice to text.
Is that
And
something that iPhone can have, or is that
yeah, yeah,
okay?
absolutely. Just go to the App Store and download the Gboard. But the voice to text is more accurate than whatever comes on the phone, I think. I use a Samsung, but when I switched to the Gboard, that started getting me way better voice to text. I also wear these aftershocks things that like sit on the bone of my ear, so they're not in my ear. But I think they have a better mic, and it's a mic that's like right next to your mouth. So the
Okay.
combination of an improved keyboard for your mobile device and these aftershocks will, I think, greatly improve your voice to text accuracy. And I think I know Mike Paris is a scriber, and he's been using one of these AI keyboards, and he thinks that it's like learns how you talk and stuff, and starts
Oh yeah.
improving, but talk to text, man. I have a workflow for a lot of things that I just am able to speak to text. Now, I would say I have a very different workflow for some areas. I still like a bathroom to me is a good example of a place where, I don't know, you really see the same defects over and over again. And so there would be no reason to like reinvent the wheel. So I can hit add observation. Everything's keyword search space. So I could do chips in the acrylic finish, right? And we could go grab these and drag them in. And, so I still have, and my metric to speed me up, like how I think about this stuff is whenever the system is right in front of me, I use kind of what I consider the old way of doing it, where I choose the defect on my mobile, snap a picture, and I'm done. Right. And so to me, that would be like bathrooms, kitchens, laundry, electric panels, water heaters. You don't have to chase that stuff all over, right? That's all just sitting there right in front of you. And that all the comments are repeatable. Whereas the other techniques I was showing you, like if I see if I see a lost seal, I don't know whether I'm going to find 50 of them or one of them, and so I don't really, I don't want to like commit to a comment, so that's why I much prefer that kind of photo caption to bullet type thing. Another feature I just want to show you is our gunny sacks are phenomenal. So this is another way that you can like group findings together. So if I go to my water heaters, as soon as I get here to an older water heater, let's say it's from 05, that automatically serves up my comment that's like, hey, this water heater is close to the end of
Nice.
its life.
That
Go ahead.
Well, that's something that I've been wanting a software thing to do is like you choose something in your information area and it auto adds a comment below in
That's right.
the defect area.
And that's
Because this,
incredible.
yeah, this is
This
awesome.
It's so important, especially if you're a multi-inspection firm and you're trying to like hire somebody. Like I always joke that my water heaters, I could give my phone to a 3-year-old and they could get like 3/4 of a water heater right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, are there seismic straps? Yes or no? If you hit no, the comment pops up. I
I
mean,
mean, you could kind of look at a water heater from a good distance and tell if it's going to be in good shape or not.
Absolutely. But, water heaters are one I found that there's a lot to look at. And if I didn't like ask myself questions, I would miss things. So I built a lot of stuff of like, are there straps? Yes or no. And as soon as I hit none found, I would get a repair comment. Was there a
Yeah.
pad? They're required here if you have an electric tank on concrete. So if I hit none noted, then that automatically gets me my comment with like a little
That would probably
illustration.
be the biggest time saver for me right there because the way I go through certain areas, like water heater is a great example. I do kind of similar thing with the furnace and the air conditioner is like, like the air conditioner outside, like, is it level? Is are the fins dirty? That sort of thing, kind of reminding myself of things to look
That's
at.
exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
And then checking that box adds the comment automatically. I don't have to scroll down and find the comment or hit the search bar and start typing. So that would
It's
save a bunch of time.
an area that I use it for, Zach, is gas fireplaces. And I don't know what it
Yep.
is, but it's so easy to forget to look for the gas shut off, to look like, is there a little sticker that it's natural gas or propane, to, is there a battery cradle? Is it corroded? So we could go to that section real quick, but I've built all that out. This slows me down. It's not as fast as like the photo captions to bullets, but you know, is there a fan? No. And if there's no, I have a little comment that you can probably add a fan if you want to.
Yep.
Mantle and fireplace clearances, and I have a whole little thing about that.
That's awesome.
The gas sticker, if it's natural gas, I can hit that and just quickly put a little, sticker of the natural gas label on there. Gas shut off, yes, and I could put a picture of the gas fireplace shut off. Battery
Is this all
cradle.
pretty smooth on mobile when you're
Uh,
going through like this
Yeah,
checklist
yeah,
part?
that's blazing fast. Yeah, the mobile doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't slow you down. The thing I should say about mobile that's pretty cool is we support what I consider the two primary workflows. So this is a good example of like in this workflow, you could choose your comment, take a picture, and the picture will be automatically nested with the comment. You
Mm-hmm.
could also not know what you want to say and just fire off a whole bunch of pictures. And then once you figure out what you want to say, you can drag those pictures from the gallery into the comment.
Is there something that tells you, hey, you have pictures that aren't tied with anything,
You
or
would you would be able to look in your gallery and see. And we have on
are the
desktop.
galleries like sectioned to where like, okay, I'm in the furnace section, I take a picture, the photo stays in that certain gallery, or
You can do that with what we call photo tags. So we have photo tags that stay hidden in the finished report, and you can tag all your pictures with the various chapters if you want to.
okay,
And some people really love that. The photo tags are really good if you're working as a team. So let's say like you and Jimmy are working together. You could tag your pictures and Jimmy's pictures, and they would show up. You can use a filter. See these filters up here? I'll cancel this. We've got these really cool picture filters. So right now we're looking at the media that's not been used in the report.
okay,
But
that's
if
nice because then you can tell what if you've added
yeah.
something in the report or not, forgot to add it.
Yeah, so now in my gallery, I've got everything. The green check marks tell you that it's been used in the report, but and then if I want, I can make them go away, and then I just see what's not in the report. So, and then if I didn't use, I'm by myself, and I don't really need the photo tags much, but I do use the photo tags occasionally. I'll show you what they look like. You can open up a picture and add a tag, and these are my various tags. But one thing I use the tags for is summary items. And then if the client's not there and then they show up and they want to know like, all right, what's the big stuff? I can go hit this little summary tag. So now we could apply a filter, right? And I could like, well, I just want to see my summary items. And so now that's
That's
the only thing that shows. But the tags can be incredibly effective. Where I'll use tags sometimes is if the clients are totally just riding me and I can hardly buy a moment, and I got to get to another one, or I don't know, your day is just going sideways, right? We have all had moments where it's like you're just in survival mode and you're taking pictures.
right.
The photo tags can be a nice way to help you come home with a pretty organized group of photos, and that can save you some
Yeah.
time when you get back. You can also use the photo tags for multifamily, where you just do unit number 1, unit number 2, or whatever, and then you
Yeah.
come home and at least they're organized really well. So that can be another
I
use.
know. Well, I should say I knew a guy who he ended up retiring, or not retiring, but he moved on to a different career. He did not do any of his writing at the inspection. He would just take photos. So that would probably be good for him in terms of if you're just going to take photos at the inspection, at least tag them so you know what the photo is.
Yeah, that's
Like
right.
if you get a photo like this where it's like the front of the house, it's like I don't know if I'm looking at the windows or the door. Like you forget what you took the photo for. Tagging it into a certain category would
And
definitely.
we brought over some guys that have that workflow. I mean, that workflow was very common prior to mobile apps. I mean, that's
Yeah.
everybody did it like that. And one of the first things I tell that type of inspector, if you're moving to mobile, is just use the mobile to fill out, what HG would have called styles and materials, just like describe the building with the pull downs, and then take pictures and caption them. And
Yeah.
even if that's all you use a mobile for, you're going to come home like way ahead of the game than you would have. And these styles and materials things, because I've set them to my required fields, I can see all my required fields before I leave the building, So in the old days, I used to forget to find the water heater, the electric panel. I mean, it's easy to forget something, and that really
Mhm.
just doesn't happen to me anymore because before I leave, I can review my required fields and make sure I found everything. Yeah. So, and then I don't think I even showed you the gunny sacks. I started to, but let me show you gunny sacks. So, in addition to photo captions to bullets, you can have these like pre-made things. So, I showed you how I put in a comment that this water heater is likely close to the end of its life. This little pen that the yellow here is text replacement. So I could use this same comment for multiple water heaters if I want to. So these
Oh.
water heaters. So now
Oh, nice.
yeah, instead of having 2 comments, I now have 1. I can handle multiple water heaters or 1 and just kind of click it.
What I do is I put an S in parentheses, but I don't like it because it makes it look like I'm just have a generic comment and it's
That's
not
right.
specific.
Thank you for bringing that up, Zach. I appreciate that, man. My absolute goal with my reports is to fool somebody into thinking that I stayed up all night writing the report.
Right. That's what I would like it to be because it makes it like I hate the S, and if it's just one, I'm able to delete it, and so it looks a little bit better. But that
And
really,
there's nothing wrong with it, but and it's a little thing, but again, it's little things make such a big difference. Like my goal is to never break trust with the client. I want them to trust me through thick and thin.
yeah,
And those little things, it's like, wow, he stayed up all night writing that report for me. And I really want him to think that. I did one for this guy who was on my kid's soccer team, and I saw him the next day. And he stared at me and he was like, Jesus, how long did it take you to do that? And I was like, nice.
yeah,
That's exactly what I want you to think. And so in any event, I clicked a few things. Now it's multiple water heaters. But this pen is one of my favorite things. This pen will stay hidden unless I choose something from it. I can double click on it and I could say, to best preserve this tank, you could consider servicing, where you flush the tank and check the anodes and stuff. Or how about this one? You live where there's boilers, don't you?
yeah. Some houses have it. Yep, the
Yeah,
house I grew up in actually has
right on. So, I mean, I
boiler.
do these houses out here. There's not that many, but I have these fancy like German boiler systems, right? And the I once did one, like a Boudros, and it's got like a tank in conjunction with it. And they have these stainless steel tanks, and those things will last a long time. I mean, like 20 plus years. And I used my same, like, hey, water heater's 12 years old, close to the end of its life. I mean, this was many years ago. But the guy servicing the boiler came back and was like, your home inspector's full of it. Like, these things last forever. And it kind of bummed me out. I was like, oh, and I researched and I was like, guys, right. These are like different kind of tanks. And
Yeah,
So now I can just click this little button and massage the comment to like handle those boiler tank combo things. So it's just one example. In my template, I have like hundreds of these little ways that I can massage a comment to kind of quickly mold it to be more specific. And again, I'm trying to have that level of detail and accuracy that earns people's trust, you know? But I
Yeah.
don't want to have to write it every time, you know? And
Right.
so I can kind of like add these little notes that are like aside things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's, I really like the being able to highlight a certain string of text and switch it based on if there's one or multiples, like you did with that water heater.
Yep.
Uh, and
Let
then,
me
yeah,
show you this gunny sack. So this is an extreme gunny sack, but this is like 300 deck comments built into a single comment. So currently, if you were to publish this report, it would say deck repairs needed, examples of observations, no during inspection include. That's it. All the yellow stays hidden. So I would click up here, and when I think of deck repair comments, there's 3 comments. Tune-up repairs, meaning you can fix the deck. Extensive repairs, rebuild or repair, or, it's end of its life dead, right? So you
mm,
can give it a grade. We could choose the middle one here and kind of give it a grade. And then you can choose, well, what's wrong with the deck? We could choose ledger board. It's not bolted correctly. It's installed over the siding. The hangers are corroded. It doesn't have lateral load ties. And we'll go on to the next one. Guardrails. Large openings in the guard, wood decay in the guard, guardrails loose, guardrail posts have been notched.
this is
So,
perfect for decks because this is where I run into the issue of my deck section has 15 different major issues. And it got to a point where I just ended up making a comment like, once I get to like, let's say like 7 or more issues, I'm just going to write a comment, or I'm just going to select one comment that says the deck had many issues, recommend a professional, repair it.
yep.
Just because I don't want to bloat the report and overwhelm the buyer with 10 different comments just on the deck.
I couldn't agree
So,
more. There's no need to. It's so easy to roll it into one. I actually don't use this one much. I tend to use voice to text more myself, but I just showing the functionality. You can build out all this stuff into a single comment. I use these parent comments of like, deck repair or replacement needed, tune-up repairs needed if we choose this one, and then I just use the photo captions to bullets. But I really only have 5 deck comments for the most part. Now, occasionally I see a deck, let's say the deck's perfect, but the guardrail's loose. I could come up here and I could start typing in loose and just choose my, the guardrail's loose, So you can still use one comment like you used to, but,
mm,
boy, you don't find that many decks with like 2 or less problems. At least I don't, it seems like decks are always like 10 things wrong or something.
yep.
So yeah, so that's kind of they're just giving you a flavor of building out these gunny sacked comments. But we've tried to build a lot of tools to reduce the number of comments you need. Like in my bathroom section, I have slow drains, and then I can choose what was wrong with the drain. Just cleaning out the trap, or gurgling was noted, which can indicate poor venting, or how those countertop model, I hate those countertop model sinks, but they never really drain well because they don't have an air vent for them. So, I can kind of quickly mold the comment with a little text replacement at the end.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's one of my goals for inspectors is to just need a lot fewer comments. you know,
Yeah.
uh, and still not lose any of the detail. You can be
Well, yeah,
just
that's the big thing I'm seeing is that you're able to adjust details based on the current situation that you're looking at. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
um, just like you just did with the slow drain. Like, I mean, typically if you're like, if let's say you're in a brand new house and the tub's draining slow, maybe the stopper isn't adjusted to where it's sitting high enough when it's open, and that's why it's probably not going to be because it's old and has cast iron or whatever else. So being able to say the sink drain slow and then have a backup comment essentially on what was observed.
Dude, I love that. I can't believe
Definitely.
I don't have that in here. So let's add it really quick. uh, Sorry, I'm a terrible typer, especially when I feel like people are watching me type. All right. So yeah, I just added another one, and then you just come up here and oops, need to hit that. Just update the library, and then the next time I pull that comment up, I will have that available to me.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's a good example of like, why have 5 or 10 slow drain comments when you can have one?
Yep.
It's just faster. And you can do all the text replacement or all the gunny sacks and text replacement and the photo captions to bullets. You can do all that stuff on mobile. You can.
I like this. It's definitely something I feel like a lot of guys would kind of have to rework the way they um, word things and do things to better utilize this software to write reports, because like just having the satisfactory marginal check boxes, um, you're not really taking full advantage of what this is capable of doing.
I think
And,
that's a very insightful comment. It's definitely, we have lots of people coming over right now, but it takes people a while to start kind of getting their head around using these features. It's a much more powerful toolbox, and if you leverage it, it'll make your company a lot more profitable. I guarantee it. But you got
well,
to
and
put the
it'll
time in.
yeah. There's going to take some. It's going to take some time, definitely getting it's all set up initially, but it's going to save a lot of time in the long run. I mean, just on that, like we were talking about with the water heater thing, like having those check boxes and then being able to just check it and automatically adds a comment, or even on the deck thing where you just roll all that stuff into one comment. I like that you can have more than three defect categories, because not everything fits into those three. And I made a post on Spectora telling guys to upvote the ability to add more, and so many dudes got pissed off about it. Like, you don't need more, you're going to overwhelm the client, blah blah blah. And it's like, you're not you're just giving another category for defects to fall into. You're not adding more defects to the report.
Yeah, I
um,
don't. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think it's overwhelming. But if people want to in Scribeware, you could have one if you want
Yeah,
to.
and that's what I'm saying.
Like
I just wanted the option to have more than three, and people were freaking out about it. It's like,
yeah,
you
that's not, it's like do what
you
you
have to
want.
use. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
mean you have to use them, but like I think the monitoring, that's a good thing that to have its own category, as well as improvements or upgrades, because not a 60-year-old house isn't going to have the right amount of like the same amount of insulation that a brand new house requires, or like we were talking about with the steps, like the tread isn't going to be,
that,
10
that,
inches or 11 inches, whatever is required. And,
and I think
stuff
it's
like,
incredibly important for us to report on that stuff. I mean, if we
yeah,
don't, they're not gonna. Nobody's gonna tell them. And that's our job, I think. And again, some people just want to focus on defects. That's fine. I shouldn't say this. Everybody's business is different,
right.
and you can do it how you want to do it. My friend Mike Patton, he said to me years ago, he's like, Dylan, you drive 70 miles and it's a different business. And
Yeah.
I thought that, well, those were words of wisdom, but for me, I like being able to differentiate these things, and I can provide a lot of detail. And I don't think I freak people out. I give this guy one thing to worry about: the roof, and
Right.
the rest of it's like I explain. Like, look, there's always going to be stuff. For you, Zach, one of my favorite things for new construction is an incomplete item. And a story I tell is many years ago, before I had all this, there was a really good builder on my island, and I liked him and I wanted him to respect my services. And I did one of his houses, and I went back to re-inspect, and he looked at me, he's like, those were not repair items. I wasn't done with them yet. And he stormed
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. I mean, that happens. You get stuff like trim that's not painted, or, like trim that isn't caulked in. It's, that's just kind of stuff I'm thinking of the top of my head. But yeah, you run into that a lot, especially if you're doing a new construction before they close.
Yep.
Um, it's surprising the amount of stuff that they do in a couple days to try to make
It is.
closing.
It's extraordinary.
And
I know.
so,
But
you,
to the point of accuracy, like if I have 30 repair items in a new construction inspection, it tells me that the builder and the subs don't know what they're doing. Like they're
yeah,
installing things incorrectly. If I have 30 incomplete items, it tells me I showed up 3 days too early, you know?
yeah, I like
So
that.
there's a whole, and it's funny, that's just one example, but words matter. And like a little thing like that is like breaks the trust, right? Now all of a sudden the builder's mad at you. He's like, they're not repairs. I'm not done. The client hears about it. And maybe they still like you, but they don't love you. Like there's this little like notch of trust that's been broken, you know? And
Yeah.
anyway, I try to just do everything I can to like maintain the trust. And, whatever, people will always be mad at you. You're a home inspector. It's like being an umpire or something. There's always
Right.
somebody mad at you. But,
Yeah.
but
Nobody.
but I think that if, choosing your words carefully can really help. And I think the modifiers really help a lot with that. But
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think everybody should be able to add as many or as little as they want. I don't think you should be stuck to the three. And that's something that actually surprises me about Spectora, with them having come onto the thing and being the new advanced, um, you know, company and inspection software. Is there's so many things where they just stuck to the old ways of doing it. They didn't think outside the box or adjust things to support the new way of doing stuff.
yeah,
And that's what I like about this is it's taking a really different approach to things, and at the same time making it easier and more streamlined for the inspector.
yeah, our goal for Scribers is to make your company more profitable, period. And to me, there's three legs to that. The obvious one is speed, right? Report writing speed. But to me, speed without quality doesn't make your company more profitable. If you're moving fast and you've got complaints, that's not worth it. If you're moving fast and you're not getting jobs from your reports, that's not worth it. So a lot of this comes out of, when I started, I had two big things happen to me. One was, day one, going out into a real estate office trying to sell my services. And it was just degrading and humiliating and like just awful, and we've all been there, right? Your first 50 jobs, you have to grovel and just take it on the chin, right? And so, I was like, I don't really want to have to do that anymore. So that was one learning lesson. The other thing was, if I'm going to do this and I get a job out of it, I want to turn that into 100 more jobs.
Yep.
And I realized that the way to do that was to study like crazy and actually learn about buildings. And I joined, ASHI back at the time. This was like before InterNACHI even existed. And I started going to meetings and I started meeting inspectors and I started reading code books and I like threw myself into knowledge. But I threw myself equally into report writing because I was like, this is my company. This is my business. This is my best marketing. And it really doesn't cost you anything other than your time. You invest your time into your report process. And then what I found happening is like, once I had a really good report, I just did, that was my marketing. I just pushed reports out in the world and they'd tell their friends and people would see them and then I'd get more calls.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the two things of why I ended up building all this was to try to. Oh, the other part of it was, when my first year somebody complained, and was really mad at me, and like I think I lost sleep for like 3 days. I don't know. Everyone listening probably can relate if you've ever like had
Yep.
somebody mad at you. I mean, it's horrible. Like you just feel, God, it was awful, and I realized it affected me so badly. I was like, if I'm going to do this as a career, I have to not have this feeling anymore, And so I wanted to try to write reports and build a procedure that would make complaints go away.
Yeah.
And I really think you can do it. I mean, I've done it, knock on wood, you never know when you get a complaint, but I don't, it's been like a
Mhm.
decade or something since somebody complained and you can do that, and the report writer is your best tool. Like when I go to CE training, I open up my template and I'm working on my template, when I'm reading code books, I'm like working on my template, and it's work. But if you build that in, what happens is years go by and all of a sudden built into this little tool. You have this insane amount of knowledge and wisdom, that's like at your fingertips, and it just makes you a more valuable human. You can go out and create a great report and do it really quickly.
Yeah. Um, I agree. I mean, I enjoy working on my report. I remember when I first started, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, and I would just come home and work on my report on my laptop in front of the TV for 2 or 3 hours until it was time to
Nice.
go to bed. Because that was enjoyable to me, because you're right. That's your product. That's basically your whole business is your report.
It is.
Because that's what the customer is getting. Besides, if they show up to the inspection, they're getting you and your personality or whatever. But a lot of people don't show up, and so it's like your report is what they're getting as a service. So that's definitely what you want to put the most thought and time into, is making sure that's buttoned up
That's
and
right.
worth it for them. They're spending $500 on an inspection. You want to make sure that they're getting a good amount of information.
Yep. Yeah, one of my goals for every Scribeware is to put you in a position where every day you work, you make a little tweak to your library or a little tweak to your template, And if you
Yeah.
can, if you can get in that, all of a sudden a couple of years go by and you built a profitable thing that has value. You've built a system and a group
Well,
of
look at
knowledge.
KC. He over the years built his template, and he's selling it now for what is it, like $400 or
Yeah,
whatever. And
absolutely. Casey works very hard on that.
yeah,
He
yes,
he is he is seriously. I mean, the amount of effort he puts into that is very impressive. Like he works
Mhm.
at that. That's not just a casual thing. He puts the
Right.
time in. It's super cool.
So, do you guys have anything else, like with Scribeware? Do you have anything else in the works, or are you guys planning on getting like a back end system for scheduling and stuff?
Yeah, so our business model has been to try to integrate with schedulers to not have to deal with scheduling. It's one of the reasons why our report writer is so insanely powerful compared to everybody else's, is that we're not distracted by that.
Yeah.
Market forces are such, and I should Steve and I are not very good business people. We're pretty passionate about software and report writing,
Yeah.
and so if we were better business people, we would have done all in one and, all these things. But we really wanted like incredible report writer, and we built that, and we're pretty close to like the main features we want there. We're rolling out something we call observation tags, which I'm just playing with right now. It's kind of in its very first stage, but I could go under slow drains now. I guess I don't have it. It's in a different thing, but the observation tags are going to be incredible. It'll do a bunch of different things. One thing is you can set, for example, an electrical tag for all of your electrical comments, and it would auto generate a separate electrical summary page. And you could do
Oh,
that for anything you want in your company. So you could auto generate, you'd have your main summary, but you could have pest summary, electrical summary, plumbing summary.
it's like structural would be good,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
it can be the question that you get all the time. Were there any structural issues?
Yeah, so you
Uh,
could create these little like various summaries. So anyway, we're working on that. That's probably going to be another month or two of work just to finish that up. And then we're planning on, doing we would like to be able to support the 1 to 3 person shops better with scheduling kind of stuff. And so we're gonna have to go there. I'm a big fan of Keystone Scheduler. We're integrated with them. We're integrated with the ISN. So I use Scribeware and Keystone. And literally, I hit one button in Scribeware on my homepage, and all my jobs come over from Keystone. And Keystone
okay.
gives me a whole scheduler that sits on my website. I never scheduling anymore. People fill it in. I open it up in Keystone. I approve it, or I like rate them and fix the time or something. And they deal with the agreements. They deal with the payments and everything. And I hit a button, and all my jobs come over from Keystone. And when I'm done, I hit publish and update Keystone, and it sends it right out to them. So one could argue that it's really two different businesses if you want a super high quality version of them. I mean, it's like you ever buy one of those coats that's like two different colors and you can wear it both, inside
Oh
and
yeah.
outside?
Yeah.
It's never a very good coat, right? It can be yellow and it can be red, but it's sort of a crappy coat. Anyway, there's something to be specialized, but we're going to be building out more scheduling. So I'd like to think by summer, we'll be able to take payments, and then we'll start building some improved calendaring and email, timed emails kind of stuff, so
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
getting there.
For like a single guy operations, especially like myself, that's the big thing in terms of time saving is a scheduler that has automation to where you schedule and it sends out email and you get the agreement signed. You could take payment that way. But I'm impressed by this software. I think everybody should look into it because it's definitely stepping outside of what we have all been used to that has been basically going on for the past 30 years, in terms of like they like all these companies kept a checkbox style or kept the same kind of narrative styles and just made the software look better. But this is actually kind of tweaking the way that you even write things or comment on things, and that's kind of what I like about it.
Yeah,
So
thanks, man. I appreciate that. We put a lot of thought into ways to make inspectors have a way better communications tool, and I use different tools for different situations, and it lets me communicate quickly and clearly. And if I were to just give one more like kind of thought to like, should it be two businesses? Should you have a scheduler and a report writer? Um, as I look at it, let's say the scheduler charges me $5 a job, even $10 a job, which is probably more than anything charges. The report writer only needs to save me $10 a job in efficiency, speed, and quality to pay for
yeah,
itself. I mean, if your report was so much better that it got you 2 jobs a year, it would pay for the scheduling,
right.
I think we have one guy that sent us a nice video testimonial that's sort of going around, but I think he estimated 400% ROI. Then he's gotten like $4,000 or $40,000 worth of jobs out of Scribeware this year, from just
That's
people seeing
awesome.
his reports. Maybe it was 20, I can't remember, but it was cool. He keeps track, he advertises, and he's like, I've got my Google ads, I've got whatever, and he keeps track of his advertising. And he reached out to me and he's like, I've been tracking it, and by far the most referrals, the most business I get is from people seeing my Scribeware report and calling me.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's like, cool. That's exactly what we want. So I'm
Yeah,
just throwing that out of like this idea that, you can't afford $5 to schedule a job. And it's like, well, maybe, maybe you can't afford not to spend that money, but
right.
it all depends. Everyone's got different business models, and we are going to be trying to improve that. We would really like to support, the smaller shops. It's the big companies scheduling, it gets really complicated. I mean, holy cow. Jim and Bill work in this zip codes on Thursdays and Sundays, and they do chimney scans, but they don't do sewer scopes. And it's like, it's
Yeah,
like, I have no interest in building that. Like, it's super complicated and, and not,
yeah. I
um,
imagine that would be tough to do to try to.
yeah. I mean, we've put some thought into it, and, AI will probably help a lot with scheduling. I think that's, AI will be the new shoe to drop in our whole industry, with
Yep.
report writing. And I think different companies, what we'll see in the next few years is different companies sort of using different parts of AI to try to solve different problems. And my guess is that some of those toes in the water will not be successful and some of them will be. We'll kind of
Yep.
learn as an industry how to leverage this new horse.
Yeah. I think it's kind of going to be like websites were like having a website was in like the early 2000s. You get guys from like the 90s that didn't want to have a website. They didn't think it'd be useful. And then you get guys that didn't want to have a mobile friendly website. They didn't think it'd be useful.
That's
And
right.
now it's AI and I see comments on those inspection forums all the time. Like, guys they're not going to use it. They're not, they don't like it, whatever, but it's going to be something you're going to have to implement or you're going to fall
It's
behind.
you nailed it, Zach. It's coming whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
But there's some real fascinating questions of how to really leverage it in a reliable way that doesn't get you sued and actually makes it go faster. And
It would
be
be
higher
cool to have
quality.
something set up to where it can recognize the picture. Like,
It
so
would.
let's say you teach it, you take a picture of a defect and you teach it, if it doesn't already know to have something set up to where you're just taking pictures and it's selecting the comment for you because it's
Correct. Yeah.
scanning that in. I think it'll get to that point, probably not within the next couple of years, but definitely I would say within the next 10 years it would get to that point.
It's interesting though. You still run into problems of like, well, do you want it to have 10 comments that are all stucco repairs, or do you want to have one comment that's stucco repairs? So
Yeah.
using that example, you would still need a software that is going to organize your comments for you, you know?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, our photo captions to bullets would make way more sense to try to leverage AI picture recognition and really just
Definitely.
caption the pictures with like stucco crack. You probably stucco crack at the, east side, right? And
Yep.
honestly, some of our tools are getting so fast that we've built that I question somewhat the ability of a computer, if you're offline, or not a computer, your phone offline in the field, to be leveraging AI to like do all this thinking that like, and actually outcompete my own speed that I have, it'll be a challenge because I can move so fast the way I'm going now that I feel like I've set a pretty high bar for AI to be able to move faster than me, and
Yeah.
do it, when there's no internet connection out in the field,
Yeah, that would be kind of a tough one because AI takes up a lot of bandwidth. And so you probably wouldn't be able to use it without an internet connection.
It's a huge energy drain, right? It uses a lot of
Yeah.
energy, needs a lot of bandwidth. And so, I want to be out on this thing and I might not have a cell connection. Like I can't be dependent on
Right.
an internet connection. So, I don't know. These are all things we're mulling over right now that are the good things. I wanted to show you because you build websites. So Scribeware, the level of customization is almost unlimited. We have a advanced portal, and you can put your own CSS in here, and you can change
That's what,
fonts and colors. And
yeah, I think KC or someone was telling me about that. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I've forgotten a lot of coding, but I
yeah,
could
fair
probably
enough.
still go through there and change some styles on stuff for
Yeah,
sure. Like,
well, we have guys that can help you too. You could do a Zoom call with somebody and that can help you get set up. But like this overlay color is something that I changed a little bit. I think I changed the colors of my buttons, and I don't know. You can go kind of crazy though if you want. I mean, it's one of my goals that, and we have some people have done, is you build your report to match your website. So they kind of have brand connection between them. You
yeah.
can even inscribe where we have the ability to. Right now, my URL says it's from getscribeware.com, but we can actually make it look like the reports are coming from your own server.
Oh, very cool.
There's an extra fee around that, but it's something that some of the big companies want. So it looks like,
Yeah. Look a
it's
lot
coming
better.
from them, Yeah. And you'll notice, how much Scribeware branding do you see on here?
Yeah. None.
There really isn't any. In
Well,
fact, on the back end, we even have a button under settings and report templates. You can turn off produced in Scribeware. And that's because we have a lot of people using it. They don't want their competition to know what they're using. And
right.
we let it turn it off. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I hope it shows a level of dedication that we have to Scribers. Like we really want to give you an unfair competitive advantage. And
It
we
looks
think,
like there's been a lot of thought in going into this, especially from a home inspector standpoint. You could tell that it wasn't somebody outside of knowing home inspections that built this because just the way a lot of this stuff is set up. So,
thanks, man. Yeah, no, that's been me and a bunch of early adopters, Charlie Buell and Mike Paris, and a bunch of guys that we've been. Big props to my partner Steve for putting up with us. But I also want to show you, this is kind of cool. I built a chapter for multifamily. And so if I have a multifamily, I can just drag this chapter up into my regular report. I can copy the chapter like 8 times or 10 times. You just come up here and hit copy chapter and then name it, unit number 101, 102 or whatever. And so
that's
then,
nice.
yeah, so I'm able, with my template, I've designed it so that I can do residential, commercial, multifamily, interior
All of
condos,
it.
full condos, and consultations, all with the same template.
Yeah, those multi units are such a pain when it comes to report writing. Like, I never know whether to just create another report with the other unit or to just in each comment write which unit the defect was in. Um, and it's I go back and forth on doing it. Either way, it's a pain in the butt.
It is.
So
This
yeah,
is a
and
pretty nice way though, because I need to work on. If I did tons of multifamily, I would probably end up tweaking this template a little bit. But it's pretty cool. You can, I've got everything in one chapter, so in theory, you just copy it as many times as you need to, and do. At a certain point, you'd end up with too much data in one report. I mean, if I wouldn't try to do a 20-plex, I don't think. I think I've done a 10-plex with it, and it was getting like to be a lot of pictures and things in one report. But, another thing we do really well, we have a sewer scope plan, but we do unlimited sewer scope videos. So you just drag the sewer scope videos right into your report, and they just stream right in there. So you don't have to upload them to YouTube or anything. Just drag them in, and they're ready to rock and roll. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you walking through all this, Dylan.
Thanks for having me on, man. That's fun.
Well, I always say I don't have anybody on here that I'm not genuinely interested in talking to or learning more about. So I really wanted to get more into this after Casey kind of dropped a couple things on me when I was talking to him last. This seemed like it was kind of fitting what I was needing a little bit more. So I'm glad we got to go over this and got to check it out. So.
Nice, man. Yeah, well, hit me up if you want a little personal meeting or you have questions about stuff. Hit me up. We can talk about. We can import templates from a lot of different systems, and we've got a bunch of different sort of plans available to try to help teach systems and help you get it customized. It's definitely the hardest part is like getting it set up the way you want.
I think that's probably going to be the time-consuming part is doing all those gunny sacks, doing like all the different, add-on sections and whatnot. So, but
the thing to think about for moving over is that what your current workflow has so few tools that it actually doesn't take much to use your current workflow in Scribeware. Like that's not even like touching any of our features, and you don't really need any of those features to do a report. So you can, once you start using it, you can start learning those features and deploying different tools in different sections of your template. Because that's what's so cool about Scribeware. I use different workflows in different sections because the truth is the data comes to us differently. Me standing in front of a water heater, the data comes at me way differently than inspecting a siding, where I have to like walk around the whole building and I keep finding new things, so you can start, we can import templates and give you pretty similar workflows relatively quickly, and then try to get you the tools to start making the tweaks. But I hear you. There's I don't want to sugarcoat, like switching software is painful, period. Like it doesn't matter what you're going to. It's just, you got to learn, set up a whole new trail of breadcrumbs and learn some new tools. And it's always painful. So sympathies all the way around. I get it.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. And anyone listening, is it getscribeware.com?
Yeah, it's just scribeware.com. We'll get to our website. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'll be posting this up soon. So
thanks, Zach. I'll let you know. You guys can reach out to me directly. Just Dylan@getscribeware.com is my email. If you want to shoot me an email and you have questions and stuff, I'd be happy to set up a Zoom call and show you around and answer any questions I can.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Zach. It was fun, man.
We'll see you.
All right.